She's unemployed trailer trash. Brett's voice boomed through the family courtroom. His custom Italian suit and Rolex glinting under the fluorescent lights as he gestured dismissively in my direction. His lawyer, a slick divorce specialist named Arthur Pemberton, nodded along like a bobblehead, clearly pleased with his client's performance. I sat quietly in my modest navy dress and flats, letting Brett's words hang in the air like toxic smoke. What neither of them knew was that in exactly 90 seconds, this entire proceeding was about to take a turn they'd never forget. My name is Katherine Stevens. I'm 37 years old, and my ex-husband was about to learn that the woman he'd abandoned 3 years ago for his secretary had spent that time doing something he could impossibly imagine. Your Honor, Pemberton said, addressing the empty bench where the judge should have been sitting. My client is a successful hedge fund manager, earning $800,000 annually. He can provide stability, education, and opportunities. The respondent, he sneered in my direction, lives in a mobile home, has no verifiable employment, and according to our investigation, has been lying about her circumstances for years. Brett leaned forward, playing to an audience that didn't exist yet. I've tried to help Katie. God knows I've tried, but she refuses to get a real job, refuses to provide our daughter with a stable home. And quite frankly, I question her mental fitness to parent. Mr. Whitmore, his lawyer continued, has documentation showing that Ms. Stevens has no tax returns for the past 3 years, no employment records, and lives in what can only be described as poverty conditions. We're requesting full custody with supervised visitation only. My court-appointed attorney, a young public defender named Maria Torres, who'd been assigned to me that morning, looked nervous. She didn't know my story. I'd asked her not to say anything, just to let Brett talk. And boy, was he talking. I mean, look at her, Brett said, his voice dripping with contempt. She shows up to a custody hearing looking like she borrowed clothes from Goodwill. Our daughter Harper is 10 years old. She deserves better than a mother who can't even afford decent shoes. I glanced down at my sensible flats, the ones I'd deliberately chosen this morning from my closet full of designer heels I never wore to court. The irony was exquisite. Furthermore, Your Honor, Pemberton shuffled his papers, importantly. We have testimony from the respondent's own sister stating that she believes Ms. Stevens has been involved in questionable activities to make ends meet. The secrecy, the odd hours, the refusal to discuss her circumstances, because she's probably dealing drugs, Brett interrupted. Or worse, I've told Harper that mommy is sick, that she's not capable of taking care of herself, let alone a child. That one hurt. Not because it was true, but because my daughter had been told these lies for months. Harper, who I'd been video calling every night from my chambers. Harper, who didn't know that mommy had been studying until 2 a.m. for the bar exam while living in that mobile home, because every penny of my graduate student loans had gone to getting through law school. The bailiff's door opened. Deputy Marshal Frank Wilson stepped out, his uniform crisp and his expression professionally neutral. Frank had worked in this courthouse for 20 years. He knew exactly who I was. All rise, Frank announced, his voice carrying the weight of protocol and procedure. The family court of Sussex County is now in session. The Honorable Judge Katherine Stevens presiding. The confusion on Brett's face was almost worth 3 years of his condescension. Almost. I stood up from the respondent's table, smoothing my modest dress, and walked past Brett's frozen expression, past Pemberton's dropping jaw, past Maria's shocked gasp, and stepped up to the bench. Please be seated, I said calmly, settling into my chair and looking down at the courtroom that had suddenly gone completely silent. I apologize for the unusual circumstances, but I wanted to hear exactly what was going to be said about me without the filter of judicial decorum. Brett's face had gone from tan to gray. Katie, what? What is this? It's Judge Stevens in this courtroom, Mr. Whitmore, I corrected gently. And what this is a custody hearing regarding our daughter Harper. A hearing that I will not be presiding over, obviously, as I'm a party to the case. Pemberton found his voice. Your Honor, Judge Stevens, this is highly irregular. The notice, said Judge Morrison. Judge Morrison had a family emergency this morning. I took the liberty of requesting a specific replacement. I looked toward the back door. Bailiff, please ask Judge Patricia Brennan to join us. The door opened and Judge Brennan entered. A formidable woman in her 60s who'd been a mentor during my clerkship. She took in the scene with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Judge Stevens, she greeted me formally. I understand you have a conflict of interest in this matter. I do, Your Honor. I'm the respondent. However, I felt it important to be present for the preliminary statements. which have been quite illuminating. Patricia took the bench as I stepped down, moving back to the respondents' table. Maria was staring at me like I'd sprouted wings. For the record, Judge Brennan said, looking at Brett and his lawyer with the kind of expression that had made hardened criminals confess. Judge Stevens was appointed to the family court bench 8 months ago. Prior to that, she clerked for Justice Hamilton at the state Supreme Court. She graduated magna cum laude from Georgetown Law while working full-time and raising her daughter as a single mother. The mobile home Mr. Whitmore referenced is situated on 5 acres of land that Judge Stevens purchased outright. Does anyone have any questions? The silence was deafening. Furthermore, Judge Brennan continued, pulling out a file. I have here Judge Stevens' financial disclosure forms, which are public record. Her salary as a family court judge is $165,000 annually. Brett's lawyer was frantically whispering to him, but Brett seemed incapable of speech. Your Honor, I said quietly, if I may address the court. Please proceed, Judge Stevens. I stood, facing Brett directly for the first time. 3 years ago, when you left me for Amber from your office, I was working 2 jobs and taking night classes. You told me I'd never amount to anything. You told Harper that her mother was a failure. You paid minimum child support and complained about even that. Katie, it's Judge Stevens, Patricia corrected sharply. Continue. I didn't tell you about law school because I knew you'd sabotage it somehow. I didn't tell you about the clerkship because your ego couldn't handle it. And I didn't tell you about my appointment to the bench because frankly, it wasn't any of your business. I've been communicating with Harper through supervised video calls, coordinated through the court system to maintain appropriate boundaries. I pulled out my own folder. I have here records showing that in the past 3 years, you've missed 60% of your scheduled visitations. You've been late on child support payments 7 times. And according to Harper's school records, you've attended exactly 2 parent-teacher conferences. Brett finally found his voice. You let me walk in here and humiliate myself. You let me say all those things. I let you reveal exactly who you are, I said. Every word you said today was recorded. Every accusation, every insult, every lie you told about me being unfit. That's now part of the court record in this custody case. Pemberton was gathering his papers, clearly ready to bolt. Your Honor, we'd like to request a continuance to— Denied, Judge Brennan said crisply. We're going to resolve this today. Mr. Whitmore, you came here asking for full custody based on allegations that your ex-wife is unemployed, trailer trash. Would you like to revise your petition? Brett looked at his lawyer, then at me, then at Judge Brennan. I didn't know. She never told me. Would it have mattered? I asked softly. If I'd told you I was in law school, would you have been supportive? Or would you have found new ways to tear me down? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Judge Brennan, I said, I'm not asking for anything unreasonable. I want joint legal custody with primary physical placement. I want Mr. Whitmore to have regular visitation. I want Harper to have a relationship with her father. But I also want it on record that my daughter's mother is not trailer trash, not unemployed, and not unfit. I am a family court judge who has dedicated her life to protecting children and ensuring fair outcomes. So ordered, Judge Brennan said immediately. Joint legal custody, primary placement with Judge Stevens. Mr. Whitmore, you'll have alternating weekends and 1 evening per week. Child support will be recalculated based on both parties' current income. And Mr. Whitmore, if you're late for a single visitation or payment, you'll be back in my courtroom, and I promise you won't enjoy it. She banged the gavel. This court is adjourned. As people began filing out, Brett approached me, his expression a mixture of shame and disbelief. Katie, Judge Stevens, I'm sorry. I really didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked. You assumed. And Brett, that's been your problem from the beginning. You assumed I was less than you. You assumed I'd always need you. You assumed wrong. He left without another word, Pemberton trailing behind him like a whipped dog. Maria touched my arm gently. Judge Stevens, why didn't you tell me? I could have prepared. You did exactly what I needed you to do. You stayed quiet and let him hang himself. I smiled at her. Sometimes the best legal strategy is giving your opponent enough rope. Judge Brennan waited until the courtroom cleared before approaching. That was risky, Katherine. Highly unorthodox. I know, but Patricia, I needed him to show who he really is. Not to me, I already knew. But for the record, so that years from now, when Harper is old enough to read the transcript, she'll understand that her mother didn't fight dirty. I just let the truth speak. Well, the truth certainly had plenty to say today. She gathered her robes. Your daughter is lucky to have you. After everyone left, I sat alone in the empty courtroom, not at the bench, but in the gallery, where I'd sat so many times as a law student, observing cases, learning, preparing for a future Brett thought I'd never reach. My phone buzzed. A text from Harper's school. Pick up at 3:30. I typed back, I'll be there. Love you, sweetheart. Tomorrow, I'd be back in my chambers, hearing cases, making decisions that affected families across the county. But today, I was just a mother who'd fought for her daughter in the most unusual way possible, by letting her ex-husband's own words prove exactly why she deserved to be exactly where she was, on the bench. In control, and completely, utterly vindicated. The unemployed trailer trash had turned out to be the judge deciding his fate. Sometimes justice has a sense of irony that no scriptwriter could improve upon.